Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome. I hope everyone is all right with all this heat. But we have some. We tried already to put some air conditioning here, but it's kind of hard, and the building is not ours, so it's. But it's just like 2 months, I guess. And we complain so much about the cold when it's here that when it's warm, we should like be glad and be happy. So welcome everyone again, the ones that are online. If there is anyone watching us, tonight is our second Monday of July, and as every second Monday of every month, we have this meeting that's in English, and it's tonight we're gonna have Fabio. I think I don't see him, but yeah, but he will be here shortly to read a message for us and to make a brief comment. And then I'll come back to go over the topic for tonight, which is following chapter number 16 from the Gospel according to Spiritism. So I'll be back. I'll be back shortly. But before that, let's do our initial prayer. And someone is, I guess, he wanted to be here, right, talking to us. Some people are. Right? He likes to talk, which is awesome. No, that's no sorry. It's awesome. Kids are blessing. And so let's do our initial prayer, and then we will invite Fabio to be up here with us. So closing our eyes if we want to. So let's invite Jesus closer to us. Ask him to protect us, to guide our thoughts and our hearts, bringing to us peace, harmony, and love, so that we can, while here tonight, not only receive some medicine for the body through the passes, but also some medicine for the soul through the messages, through the good thoughts, through the smiles and hugs that we always get and give and receive when we are here. And may we all congregate in the name of God and in the name of Jesus, who is and will always be our master, our friend, our brother. So be it. So let's invite Fabio to read a message from our, what's the book again? The Way, the Truth, and the Light. So he'll be here, and I'll be back shortly.
All right. Good evening, everybody. It's nice to be back here one more time for our monthly English lecture here tonight. It's nice to see it's a full house. Got a lot of people, so that's great. And I can imagine it's even more on the other side. So to give continuation to the book we've been reading in our English meetings, it's The Way, the Truth, and the Life by the Spirit Emmanuel, psychographed by Xavier. And we left off on chapter 8. So chapter 8 says, Jesus came, but he emptied himself, taking the form of a servant, making himself similar to men. Who wrote this was Paul in Philippians chapter 2, verse 7. And then Emmanuel's comment says, many disciples talk about how terribly hard it is to do good works in the service of evangelical fellowship. They complain about the unfortunate state of ignorance that most people seem to enjoy. However, complaints like this are unjustified. In carrying out his divine mission of love, Jesus did not depend on the immediate collaboration of perfected and wise spirits. Instead, he emptied himself, taking the form of a servant, making himself similar to men. We were not able to go up to the Savior to be with him in his sublime position. Instead, he came down to us, temporarily extinguishing his aureole of light in order to benefit us without displays of sensationalism. Jesus' example in this particular is a highly profound lesson. Let no one allege intellectual or sentimental accomplishments as a reason for their brothers and sisters misunderstanding them. None of those who have walked the earth ever reached the heights of Christ. On the other hand, we see him eating with sinners, talking fraternally with prostitutes, and giving his final example between two thieves. If your neighbor cannot reach your spiritual level, then you can go to his or hers for the good work of fraternity and enlightenment, without any ostentation that might be offensive. Remember the example of the Divine Master. In order to come to us, he emptied himself, entering the world as a child with no cradle, and exiting his glorious endeavor as a crucified servant. So, a couple reflections here. So when Emmanuel reflects on this passage, he's inviting us to ask ourselves a difficult question. How do I treat people who know less than I do, who believe differently than I do, or who are struggling in ways I no longer struggle? Very often, we think that if people don't understand us, they should make more of an effort. If they don't grow spiritually, we wait for them to change before approaching them. Jesus did the exact opposite. He never waited for humanity to become perfect before loving it. He entered humanity at its lowest point. The humility of Christ. When Paul says Jesus emptied himself, he's not saying Christ lost his divinity. He is showing us that Jesus voluntarily laid aside his privileges. The king accepted poverty. The master accepted misunderstanding. The judge accepted being judged. The one who had every right to be served chose instead to serve. That completely changes our understanding of greatness. In our world, greatness usually means climbing higher than everyone else. In the gospel, greatness means bending lower so someone can stand. One sentence in this chapter that struck me deeply was when Emmanuel says that many people complain that it's difficult to perform good works because humanity is ignorant. How often do we ourselves say people don't want to change? Nobody listens. It's impossible to help. Yet Jesus entered exactly that world. If ignorance had been an excuse, Christ himself would never have come. Instead of criticizing the darkness, he became light within it. Instead of waiting for better conditions, he created better conditions through his presence. This is a lesson for all of us. Sometimes we postpone charity because people aren't grateful. Sometimes we postpone forgiveness because we feel as if someone doesn't deserve it. We postpone service because the environment just isn't ideal. Jesus never waited for ideal circumstances. Another point that Emmanuel makes is that if someone cannot rise to our spiritual level, we should go down to meet them. This doesn't mean lowering our values. It means lowering our pride, and there's a big difference between the two. When speaking to a child, for example, an adult might kneel. Teachers simplify difficult subjects for students. Doctors explain complicated illnesses in simple language. Why? Because love always adapts itself to the one being helped. Jesus did this spiritually. He spoke in parables because ordinary fishermen could understand him. He walked beside the poor, he touched the lepers, he ate with the sinners. He never made people feel small. Instead, his presence made them believe they could become greater. This chapter also warns us against a danger that is often hidden: spiritual pride. Sometimes we imagine that because we study the gospel, attend a spiritist center, or read psychograph novels, we have become more enlightened. Knowledge can become another form of vanity. Emmanuel teaches us that Christ, who knew infinitely more than any human being ever could, never used his wisdom to humiliate anyone. If Jesus never looked down on people, what right do we have to do so? The more we grow spiritually, the more accessible we should become. If our knowledge creates distance instead of compassion, then we have not yet learned what Christ taught. This teaching applies to each and every single one of us, whether it's in our families, in our churches, our spiritist centers, at work, or even among friends. Sometimes someone speaks harshly because they're hurting. Sometimes someone is impatient because they're afraid. Sometimes someone might make a poor decision because they have never experienced anything else. Instead of asking, why are they like this? Perhaps we should take a different stance and ask, how would Jesus approach this person? He would probably begin with understanding before correction, with compassion before judgment, with presence before preaching. The cross completes this lesson. The chapter ends by reminding us that Jesus entered the world without a cradle and left on a cross. He was born with simplicity. He lived with service. He died for forgiveness. Everything about his life teaches humility. The incarnation and the cross are one. He descended to serve, and he served until the very end. When I read this chapter, I didn't feel as if Emmanuel was asking me to become more intelligent or more religious in the common sense. I think he's asking me to become more approachable. Can people who are struggling feel safe around me? Can someone who has made mistakes find encouragement instead of condemnation? Am I willing to leave my comfort, my pride, and my certainty to meet someone where they are in their stage of life? Because that's exactly what Jesus did and does for each and every single one of us. None of us reached him first. He came to us. And perhaps the greatest way we can honor Christ is by doing the same for others. The measure of our spiritual growth is not how high we rise above others, but how willingly we lower ourselves in humility, love, and service so that others may rise with us. This is the path that Jesus walked, and Emmanuel reminds us that it's also the path that every disciple is invited to follow. So thank you very much, everybody. And I'm going to invite Mackenzie back up for our lecture of the evening.
Thank you, Fabio. And tonight we are going to, I'm going to read a bunch of these books. So we're going to leave tonight at midnight. Is that okay? About midnight? No, I'm just kidding. So it's just that I was reading something there and preparing some of the points I want to mention here, and I just decided that I would bring the book so that I can show you some of my thoughts and my rumblings and all that that's going through my mind while I'm studying this or reading something about it. So tonight, as I said before, last month when I came here, I said that we were starting chapter number 16, which is you cannot serve both God and Mammon. And we talked a little bit about who was Mammon and all that stuff. So this chapter mainly deals with how we live around money, how we live around wealth, how we live around our properties, how we use the money that we are giving off and the money that we receive. So it deals with all this idea of wealth, in that sense, of money, of how much we have and what do we do with it. So that's basically what this chapter 16 is. Last month we talked about items 1 and 2, and tonight we're talking about item number 3 in this same chapter number 16. And the title of the item is what I have there: preserve yourself from avarice, or guard yourself against avarice. Every translation will say it in a different way. And our PowerPoint there is just for the text that is in the gospel, which is just this piece and this piece. So it's very brief. So I put it there so we can, while I read, you can follow the words. It's not a long text, and I'm going to need to read it for one very specific reason. And I said this last month. So as, if you've been coming here and if you've ever watched some of our topics online, you know that every Saturday we have a meeting here in Portuguese, and all the topics that we do on Saturdays, they go online. So you can go to Cantinho's YouTube page and find all the public talks there in Portuguese. And the ones that we do here in English on Mondays, they also are online. So you can also go online and read it again or watch it again. And if you didn't understand something, if you want someone that that only speaks English to know a little bit more about Spiritism can go to the website. And there are a bunch of other websites, of course, that do the same. And tonight, we also transmit this onto Kardec Radio's website, which is another YouTube channel with, there are some people watching as well. So our dear friend Vanessa, she asked us if we were willing to do the same and transmit both to Cantinho's YouTube and to Kardec Radio's YouTube. And we said, why not? The more people, watching it, the better for our understanding and to spread the word. So coming back here to the topic, last month I mentioned that the Gospel according to Spiritism has a very interesting, at least to me, a very interesting way of dealing with the teachings of Jesus. What Kardec does usually, he gets a passage from the New Testament, sometimes from the Old Testament as well. So he gets a passage, puts it there, and then right under it, he explains something. So he goes and explains a little bit of what he, in his understanding, in the Spiritist understanding, what did Jesus or what does that specific passage mean? That's what he does in almost every chapter. But this specific chapter, he starts the chapter a little differently. He just puts the passage from the gospel. He doesn't make any comments. He puts the passage and moves on. Puts the passage and moves on. So last month, and I spoke a little about this, I'm not going to go into that same thing. So that's why I was saying, if you want to go and watch last month, it's on the YouTube channel. You can kind of hear what I said about it. But what I find interesting is to ask ourselves why he does that. Every person that writes a book, every person that is going to say a message, every person that's going to try to explain something, if the person is at least a minimum organized, it's going to have like a mental idea of how they want to say that. And then they write it, or they speak it, they talk about it. You organize your mind and you put it there. A book, it's even more than what I'm doing here. It's more like spontaneous. Of course, I studied, I read about it, I thought about it. I have some kind of idea of what I want to say. But the moment that I start speaking, some stuff flies away. I don't remember anymore. And some stuff come back. So I say it, and then all of a sudden something else comes up, and then I say that, but I forget what I wanted to say in another sense. So it's more like it's a fluid thing. But when you're writing, right, you write something, you're not going to publish as soon as you wrote it. So you're going to review it. You're going to think about it again, and you're going to revise it. And maybe you're going to say, oh, no, I'm not going to keep this here. I'm going to change this and move this to a different chapter, or I'm going to talk about this in a different way. So you organize it and you put it in a very specific way. Kardec was a very, very, very organized person. He was a teacher. He was a professor. So he really knew what he wanted to do with the text. He really knew it. So if he puts something and he doesn't write anything after that, it needs to mean something. He wouldn't just leave something there without making a comment. So either he wanted to build up a certain amount of knowledge until you get to a point and then he's going to write something, or he didn't want his intervention on a text that maybe for him was very, very clear. And we, as a reader, we can take any approach and we can look at this in many different ways. I find it very, very interesting. My take is that he wanted to make us feel what Jesus was trying to tell us before he goes and says something about it. It is as if, okay, I'm going to grab this passage from Jesus, put it there. Then I'm going to grab another passage of Jesus and put it here. Then a different one, put it here. Then a different one, put it here. You're going to read all this. After you read all this, then I'm going to say something about it. Instead of saying something about why, we would have to ask him. And he's dead already, so maybe in a mediumistic meeting, we can ask him one day, Diogo, if you want to ask Kardec. Kardec, hey, why did you do this, right? But I find it very interesting. So last month, again, the topic was the salvation of the rich. And we talked about it. It's already recorded, so I'm not going to talk about it anymore. This one is preserve yourself from avarice, or guard yourselves against avarice. That's the translation from this book right there. Avarice is that idea of you have whatever you have is only yours. You don't spend a dime on anything, and the more you can save, the more you're gonna have it, and then you live as if money is your life. And that's basically the idea of what avarice is. It's like as if money, it's not you that control money, it's money controls you. It's basically that kind of idea, and that kind of relationship is like your life is basically purely devoted or geared towards money, like the music said, right? Money, right? There's a song that says money, right? So that's the topic. And what is there? Like I said, it's from, I forgot to put it there, but it's from Luke chapter 12, verses 13 from 21. So this is from verse 13 to verse 21. That's the entire text. It's just a little piece of the Bible, just a little piece of the New Testament. And I put it there so it's easy for us to see and follow. Sometimes, some words are a little bit kind of hard to understand, or so I have the words there for us to read it. So I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to come back, and then we're going to talk a little bit about some of these pieces so that we can kind of understand what is this. And this is a story, so let me read it before I'll say something else. So the item starts: someone in the crowd said to him, and him here is Jesus. So Jesus was talking to people, and then someone that was in the crowd came to him and said, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Jesus replied, "Man, who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you?" Then he said to them, "Watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions." And he told them this parable. So Jesus is going to tell a story. The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. He thought to himself, "What shall I do? I have no place to store my crops." Then he said, "This is what I'll do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones. And there I will store my surplus grain. And I'll say to myself, whoa, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry." But God said to him, "You fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? This is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich toward God." So that's the parable. That's the story. That's what was happening there. And that's the teaching. So Kardec didn't want to comment on this, like I said. He didn't make any comments. He just put these passages there from verse 13 to verse 21. And then he moves on to a different story, which will be here next month. Next month we'll be with the next one, which, by the way, Kardec doesn't make any comments as well. Then the month after that, there will be another story, which Kardec doesn't make any comments as well. So this is a very different chapter. This is a different chapter from previous ones. Like I said, it is almost as if he wants us to take something in and just like, okay, here's what we follow. And I'm not adding anything to what Jesus said. So you have to really pay attention. Like I said, he will make comments later on the chapter. He will reflect on stuff. But before, he is almost asking us, how much have you read already before I tell you something? How much have you really tried to understand the meaning of the words? Fabio was just here. He grabbed, we go through the book, and the book we're doing right now is The Way, the Truth, and the Life. This book is divided in a certain way, and the ones who follow us and come here already know. Emmanuel, which is the one that writes the messages, gets a little piece from the Gospels, not a big like this, but one like that one. Let's say that 21. So he gets that number 21, the verse 21 from the Bible, from this chapter. He writes a message about that verse here. It's one page, dissecting or going into it and giving us ideas to understand this piece. You know what surprised me? This book right here is it's the gospel according to Luke. Not the gospel itself. The gospel itself would be in the Bible like this. So the Gospel of Luke is right here. A few pages of this book, maybe like 15 pages. So let's say Luke is like this. This book right here is in Portuguese, but we have many of these messages already translated to English, but this specific one is in Portuguese. This is a compilation of messages from these books. But what is here is someone, an organizer, a person, collected all the messages that Emmanuel wrote, all the messages in one collection. So there are 7 of these books. Like, it's about this big. They are there in the library for study. And the messages in this book here, they're all related to Luke's gospel. So if you ever want to, this message, chapter 12, verse number 20, you come to this book, and instead of looking to see if this book that Fabio read has a message from Luke, you can come to this. It's like an index, and then you find Luke 12:20 right here. I bookmarked, so it makes it easier, right? So I didn't have to search. So it's right here. So Luke 12:20, then there's the same passage, but God said to him, "You fool, this very night," it's right here. And then there's a message that Emmanuel wrote about it. So you can see what he says about it, so you can have a deeper understanding. What I found very, very interesting is that Kardec didn't make any comments, right? I come here, and just off of item number 20 there, Emmanuel wrote 5 different messages about that verse. 5 different interpretations of that verse, which is it is as if we are like, he wants us to really pay attention to something that's in there. Of item 21, he wrote 1 message, and of item 15, which is right at the beginning, it starts at 13, 15, then he said to them, "Watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions." He wrote 4 different messages about that specific line. So, why am I saying this? I'm saying this because although this is a very small passage, it has a lot to do and a lot for us to think about. I'm not going to cover everything. I'm going to point some small things that I can see there. But I highly recommend, if you want to think a little bit more about the topic, to read it again. Grab the gospel. It doesn't need to be in English, of course. You can read it in Portuguese. You can read it in French. You can read it in Spanish. In Greek, if you understand Greek. I bet everybody here knows how to speak Greek, right? No, I don't either. So Portuguese would be the easiest for me, but, English or whatever other language. Read it again. It's a very small passage. It's very tiny. And it makes us like go in circles. We live in good circles. We live in a world that, of course, for us to live in this world, we need to work. We need to have money. A kid doesn't need money, but he or she doesn't need money because their parents have money to support them. Otherwise, we can't. So money is something that's necessary in our world. That's a given. There's no way that we, as far as we are right now, that we can live without money. However, how do we live with that money? And that's the topic. Guard yourself or guard yourselves against avarice, or right? That's the title in this translation. Preserve yourself from avarice. Every translation has its nuances. So why? And it's what I find interesting is that it is a worry that is not from today. It's like a person was asking Jesus about it 2,000 years ago. And before that, people were asking as well. How many stories have we heard of people like killing other people because they want their money or they want their property, or they even brothers and sisters? And what is interesting in this story is how it starts. It doesn't start like, okay, I don't know, like the other one that we read last week, or that we're going to read after this or last month or next month. It's not about like with people that we don't know. This story starts with a family problem, with a family issue regarding money. Teacher, tell my brother. So it's a family problem. I guess this is an old problem, right? We don't have this problem anymore, right? We don't have problems with brothers and sisters and money, right? It's something that really never happens, or with my parents or with someone. It doesn't happen, right? It's something that maybe, I don't know, I'm talking something about here that's completely out of, we don't need to talk about this anymore, because he says, tell my brother to divide inheritance with me. Okay, my parents died or whatever it is, and now I need to split the money between the brothers and sisters, but my brother doesn't want to split it, or I don't want to split it, and I'm blaming my brother. I don't know what it is. And you come to Jesus and asks him, hey, can you tell my brother to divide the money and give my part? Why did he go and ask Jesus about it? We have no clue about this. But it is, I mean, he looks at Jesus as if Jesus has a higher power or has this high ground, and say, okay, if Jesus says something, maybe my brother will give me my part. But instead of Jesus like saying something about the money being split or about divided inheritance, he asks a question. And I find that to be very interesting because, great teachers, instead of answering the question, they ask another question to make you think. So you see what he asks? He asks, okay, so you're asking me to tell your brother to split your inheritance, but who appointed me? Who gave me this power? Who? Am I a judge or an arbiter? Am I a lawyer? What am I? I mean, why are you asking me to do this? Then it will all automatically make the other person stop and he go, okay, so maybe I should have not asked this. When you come to a person and you ask something and the person, or you, whatever it is, and then the person does something and you said, oh, I shouldn't have started this, right? You regret it right away because you know that you're in trouble the moment that you ask, why would I open my big mouth, right? That's what we sometimes say. Why did I say something? What? So that's what happened right here. Jesus looks at him and says, okay, so why are you asking me this? What do I have to do? As if he's saying, I am not here for these mundane things. This is something that you should have already known that I don't need to meddle in. This is something that, you should be able to do it by yourselves. You don't need me to do anything about this. My worry is something else. I don't have this type of worry. This type of worry is not for myself. And then he doesn't stop there. He asks the guy and he makes the person think about it. When I think Fabio was saying, I was doing creating this little PowerPoint there, just putting the text, and I heard him say something like, if you don't know what you want to do or if how you want to do it, or you should ask Jesus. We should, but about material things, really? I mean, it's like asking the wrong person or the person that doesn't really like. I mean, it's like this is so small, right? It's so, you should be able to do this. But I'm going to give you another advice. I'm going to give you an advice that will not only make you think about your question, but make you think about your question in a different way, in a deeper way. It will make you go deep because you're trying to solve a problem with somebody else. But it is as if you want not to solve the problem. You want the other person to solve the problem for you. I have a friend, and I consider the person a friend. But something happened at one specific point, that the person came to me and asked me a question. I assumed, because we are friends for such a long time, if I don't know the person, I'm gonna answer in a certain way, because you still like stepping on stuff that you don't know how the person is, how the person will react. But once you know the person, you have a little more freedom to speak in a different way, or to say something in a different way. So that specific night, the person asked me something, and I assumed at that specific moment that the person really wanted an answer. I didn't consider that the person just was asking something without really paying attention. The person didn't want to have an answer. And that's what I found out later, that the person didn't want an answer, because she said it later. She said, I just wanted you to hear. It's okay. So at least you have to give me clues, or maybe I'm the one that still needs some learning in certain things. But I gave the answer. The question that we need to ask ourselves is, when we ask something, why do we ask? Because this guy, he was not prepared to hear what Jesus had. He asked the question and he wanted an answer. He wanted someone else to solve their problems. He didn't want to solve the problem. He didn't want Jesus to say, okay, so here's what you need to do. Go and do it. It is almost as if he wanted Jesus to say, okay, I'm going to tell your brother divide, and then, okay, you're going to be happy. And Jesus looks at him and say, hey, I'm no judge. I'm no arbiter. So I'm not going to tell anybody to do anything. You have your own free will. You're going to do whatever you want to do it. But here's something that I can do. Not for your brother. Because when we ask a question like this, it is almost as if I'm saying, okay, my brother is the one that has the problem. That I am perfect. I am great. I just want what is mine. But my brother is creating a problem. Then you go ask the brother. What is the brother going to say? Oh, the problem is my brother. Right? There was this radio show on NPR, National Public Radio. I love to listen to it. It was on Saturday mornings. I would go out with my brother. He would have the radio on, and we would be listening to. One of the programs was Wait, Don't Tell Me, and the other one was Car Talk. I don't know if you've seen the movie. Probably you did. I mean, I see kids here, so probably watched Cars, right? I mean, I watched Cars, 50 times with my grandson already. He loves cars, so he watches all the time. I love cars too, so I don't complain. And I'm the kind of person that likes to watch something like multiple times. My wife hates it, so it's like for me it's perfect. For my wife is crazy. So in Cars, there are two guys or two cars. They own the tire shop, and they are Italians. They like Ferraris. So it's like the tires, the special tires are the black ones with the white outside of the cars. And when they prepare Lightning McQueen, it's the perfect car with the perfect tires and everything. Those two brothers in the movie, they are two brothers. Or, I mean, one died a few years ago, but they were the hosts of this Car Talk on the radio. And it was a very funny program, because they try to fix cars. Like the person called would tell you something, and then they would try to figure out what was the problem, give them hints. Okay, so you can change this, you can try this to see if it fixes it, and go on. So, and they were funny. And one of the brothers would say, one of their taglines was, "Don't drive like my brother." And the other one would say, "Don't drive like my brother." So they would don't drive like, so they were bickering, right? It's like this brother right here is the same thing. He's complaining about the other brother, but the other brother will complain about him too. So when we ask a question like this, it is almost as if I'm saying, okay, I'm the good guy and the other guy is the one that's causing the problem. Does everybody here have brothers and sisters? So we all know how it is, right? We all know how it is. We always blame the other brother. We blame the younger brother. We blame the middle one, or oh no, it's always there's a saying that says this. I love this saying. If something bad happened and you're still smiling, it's because you already know who to blame. You already know that, if someone comes to you and said, "Oh no, it was my brother," right? I already know. Even if it were me, it doesn't matter. My brother is always the culprit. I can always say, "Oh, something got wrong at Cantinho. Oh, it was Diogo. That's for sure. Diogo was the one that did it," right? There's no doubt about it. So we always have someone to, that's this guy right there. So he comes to Jesus and says, hey, can you split my inheritance with my brother? Like as if he's saying, okay, my brother is the one that causing all the trouble. And Jesus says, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do anything about this because this is you and your brother. But I'm going to tell what you have to be wary about. Not your brother. You can go tell your brother if you want to, but I'm telling it to you. And Jesus is telling to all of us, watch out. Be careful. Hey, warning sign. Look out. So be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Be on your guard. Be aware. Check yourself. Check inside. It's not about the outside. It's about inside. It's not about the others. It's about what's inside. It's about how much do you want, for what do you want, without thinking about the other. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. Life is not what you have. Life is not what you have, the more you have, or the less you have, or he's talking about abundance. So he's talking about how much you have. He's talking about, okay, oh, so I have a lot. When someone comes to Jesus, and I think I told this last month as well. I remembered something, but it escaped me. But maybe not all of us have kids or had kids, but most of us had, or at least have understand how kids work, because we were kids once. If a kid is smart enough and he wants something, he will come to you and he will find a way that he thinks is wise enough or is smart enough to ask you without you really, in his mind, he will say, okay, so I'm going to do this so my dad or my mom doesn't know what I really want. But of course, being adults, having been kids, knowing kids, we will say, okay, so what do you really want? What exactly do you want? And we know what it is. You know, when my grandson comes to me and he asks something or he does something, and then I start smiling and I said, you're trying to trick me, right? And then he starts laughing. Because we know, right? We look at them and we know that they are trying to trick us into do something, right? So the other day, I don't remember exactly, but I think he wanted to go to the pool or he wanted to do something outside. I was watching a game and I didn't want to go or whatever. So he starts like creating this false story of, hey, Vovo, I need you to come to do this. And I look at him and say, you're trying to trick me? And then he starts smiling and said, yeah, I'm trying to trick you. So he gives up right away. And this is with a kid, right? We sometimes can even see this in adults. A person like Jesus that is even more advanced than us in terms of psychology, in terms of looking at us and really understanding who we are. If someone comes to Jesus and asks a question, how much do we think that Jesus knows what we want to know, what we want? He really knows us. Sometimes when we look at the eyes of a person, we already know what the person wants. And we are just like regular person. Why do we go to psychologists? Why do we talk to a psychologist, and then out of a session of 1 hour or 2 hours, then he starts like diagnosing our problems because of the way we say things, because of the problems that we go through, because they have experience. So they look at us and they will say, okay, so you have an issue on this side, you have an issue. Can we work on this? You need to work on that problem. You need to work on this, and on this. Jesus looks at this guy and says, okay, so what's this guy problem? And of course that he's talking about one person, but this message is not just for that guy over there. It's for us to really think about this, to really think about how greedy we are. How much greed do we still have within our hearts? Do we really understand that life does not consist in an abundance of possessions? Do we really understand that? Or do we still live our lives as if money, or not necessarily just money, but possessions, stuff that we carry, are really the main reason for our lives? How much are we balancing out these things? I started saying that we are here, we need money, we need work, that we need it. We need a house, we need a car. There's no discussion, and that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about more than this. We're talking about how much more do we need to really make us understand that it's not that what we really need. So he goes on and he will say, and then he tells the story, right, that we already told. The ground, or the land of a certain rich man had this abundant harvest. So he planted whatever it was, grains, corn, whatever it was. It doesn't really matter. Just says there was an abundant harvest. At that time might have been like wheat to make bread. It could have been whatever, like pears or apples or whatever it was. He thought to himself, what shall I do? What do I need to do? I mean, now I have all this. I mean, all my land is giving me a bunch of stuff that I was not expecting. I have nowhere to store whatever I'm getting. And crops here is usually like wheat or grains in a certain way. What will I do with all this excess stuff that I have now? Then he said, this is what I will do. I will tear down my barns where I store my crops, the house where I store my crops, and build bigger ones. And there I will store my surplus grain. Whatever the grains that I have now I have 10 times more. So now I'll have bigger barns to store more grains. And then I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Oh, and I'm going to be very happy because, okay, now I have grains that will last forever. I'm going to be like rich beyond what I can think of for years and years and years to come. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry, be happy. So that's what he thinks to himself. Then Jesus continues the story. But God said to him, you fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Meaning, you're going to die tonight. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? Who will get whatever you prepared? Because it's yours, but it's not yours. It's ours, but it's not ours. Is Jesus saying that we shouldn't prepare for the future? No, that's not what he's saying. Is Jesus saying that we should not have, something stored up for when something happens? No, it's not what he's saying. Because even our society, and I don't know if you remember this or if you've seen this, we all went through COVID times here, right? Everybody here remembers a little bit of what COVID was, that, what happened there. Then we had to wait and see what was going to happen. Two things that I remember that deals with this topic. The first one is that we didn't have toilet paper anymore. Which is To this day, I really have no idea what is the big problem with toilet paper and paper towels. I have no idea. Seriously, every time I think about this, I laugh because why? Why? Okay, was the virus gonna eat all the toilet paper? Is that I have no idea why. But okay, we passed through this, uh, and then I think about this isn't it some similar to what kind of greed that we're having here? We're thinking, okay, so if I can't have it, so let me have it all. And then all of a sudden, I'm taking like 20,000 toilet papers in my house, and my neighbor doesn't have one. Why? That's one side of what Jesus is trying to tell us here. It's for everybody. It's not for one person. He's not saying that you cannot have it. He's not saying that you shouldn't have it. No, he's saying be wary because you live in a society. You live with a lot of other people that if you need, someone else needs to. So how do you balance this out? But this is the first one that I remember, and I find it funny, and it has some connection to this. But then comes the other story that I heard, and maybe you heard this other story too, which was one that deals with the hand sanitizers. There was one specific report that I saw that this guy, he saw that hand sanitizers were disappearing, were like being sold at a much faster rate than usual. Why? Because people were like using to clean their hands, and hospitals needed even more and all that stuff. What did he do? He bought like a truck full of, more than one truck full of hand sanitizer. There was in his town, there was no more hand sanitizers. What did he do with all this hand sanitizer? He started selling the hand sanitizer 10 times the price, 20 times the price. He was the town or the state, I can't remember where it was. You can search for the report, you will find it. But the state, I don't think that he was put in jail, but he was fined, and he had to sell everything that he bought for the price that normally would have been sold, because it fell under a certain category of doing bad to the public instead of in a moment where you cannot do this. Supposedly, in the capitalist society that we live, this is normal. This is fine. You can just do whatever you want. And if you're cynic enough, you will really believe that, and you'll do it. And that's what he did. But is it really, in terms of ethics? Not even talking about moral, not even talking about religious. I'm just thinking about, is that how we want to run society? Is that really how we want to run society? Because this just takes advantage of everybody else that's around us. And if it's for us, it's fine. But if it's for the other, is wrong. There's something that's out of shape there. What Jesus is trying to teach us here, and you see, sometimes when we, even if we start thinking and we get out of this idea of Jesus saying this, but just based on this story, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't necessarily need to be a religious idea, but it doesn't feel right, because you're taking advantage of something that, if you're a little humanitarian, a little bit of humane, you're going to see that why are you going to do this? Just for your personal gain, for gain of one person, and then all of a sudden a lot of people that are in need of this cannot have it because you're making them pay like 10 to 20 times the price of something that everybody needs it, including you. So this is just only one aspect of what Jesus is trying to tell us here. because he says at the end, this is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich toward God. Because when we lose whatever we have materially and we are taking away to a spirit life, what will I carry? What am I taking from this world if not what I am? If not what I built inside myself? What kind of a rich person I want to be? Oh, I want to be two kinds of rich. I want to be rich, have money, but I also want to be rich inside, be fair, spread the wealth, create jobs. Why not? There's nothing wrong with being rich and not giving necessarily, but spreading, creating a net of people that can work for you, that can work with you or with us to improve society wherever I am. If I am the type that likes or wants to give money to non-governmental institutions of fraternity without borders or whatever, fine, let's do that. But if I want to create jobs, let's do that. But why do so many people have so much money that they don't even know what to do with so much money? And there are so many people that need a minimum, and they don't even have that minimum to survive. They have to go through really, really bad stuff to go through. It's that type of equilibrium that Jesus is inviting us to have. It's not asking us to be poor, and is allowing us or asking us to think about how much more do you need if you one day, when you die, everything will be left behind. So let's think about this, and there's a lot more to discuss on this. Of course, there's always a lot more to discuss, but I highly recommend it. I invite everybody to read it again, and if you want to read more about these items, there's more messages from Emmanuel talking about it in different areas. Next month. Next month, we will talk about another story from Jesus. It's the story of Zacchaeus, the one that's little. He's a tiny guy, like Fabio. No, Fabio is huge. He's a tiny guy. Oh yeah, more like Diogo. Yeah, exactly. It's more like Diogo, and he wants to see Jesus, and he can't see Jesus because there's a bunch of people in front of him. So he climbs up the tree. And that's the story we're going to talk about next month. Hopefully, Flavio will be here to talk to us about it. If not, then you're going to have to hear me again. But, let's wait. It's a month. There's still hope. There's still hope. So that's next month. Before I go, I would just like to give some, to just tell you a few things. Oh, these things are getting fancier and fancier. So I already said, right, Sundays and Saturdays and Mondays we have our meetings here. It's starting at 7. This is the second Monday of the month. We have the English meeting here. On Saturday is always in Portuguese. So if you want to come on Saturdays too. It's after, on Saturdays, after we have the talk and everything, we have a little like dinner outside so that we can it helps pay the rent, pay everything for the house, so that we have it there. We put the table back there with books. Those books are free to take. You can choose a book, take a book home. If you have a book that you don't want or you already read, you want to bring it here, you can swap. It's to stimulate reading, right? And this month, we did this in April. We're doing this now until the end of the month, and it's going to be there. Just check the books and see if you want some. Because, what is it, the 25th, right? 27th? On Monday, and then on August 1st, that week, we're gonna have a book discussion here. It's about a book called Violetas na Janela. What is it? Violets on the Window. So it's a book about a little lady. She was 19, I think, when she died, and then she comes back to tell the story of how she passed away, what happened on the other side. So we're going to discuss this book. So we're inviting everybody to read the book and come here, sit, so that we can discuss the book. You don't need to have read the whole book. Just be aware that we're going to talk about the book. So if you want to know how the book ends, it's better if you read before coming, but you don't need to read the whole book to be here and to share and to see how it is. And it's a book club, right? In that sense, where we can, together read a book, discuss it, makes it more interesting, makes it more, alive, and maybe you get more interest in reading more, which is also a very good thing to do. So remind everyone about the gospel at the home or the God at home, that we sit down, choose one day of the week or one night of the week. We get a book with a message, and then we read the message, try to take in that message, think about it, and invite the good spirits to our home so that we can also have a good meeting with the gospel in the house. We're going to have in September, we are receiving once again Roberto and Carol. They're going to come to do the treatment, the spiritual treatment. Roberto will also give us 2 lectures on Saturdays, and he does this work all around the world. He travels doing it in Brazil, in other countries, in other states here as well in the United States. So he's going to be here in September. We will have more information on days and all. And if you need passes to someone, if you need prayers to someone, and you want to leave their names on a book, there's a book outside where you can write the names of your family ones or your loved ones. You can write the names there. And during our meetings, we will do specific prayers for those people. And I guess that those are our I think that's all. Oh, and Tuesdays we have our studies here, but we are on vacation right now. So Tuesdays we are on vacation until August. It's in Portuguese, but we're on vacation until August, and then this 3rd week of August we're going to be back. But we will keep updating everyone about it. And I think that's it for now. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I hope, I saw some people nodding. I'm not sure if people were understanding or just nodding because they are very nice people, like Simone, for example, right? She's a very nice lady. Can see, right? You too. I know that you guys are very nice. So, right. So hopefully you kind of halfway so understood a little bit. And but that's it. Let's do our prayer, right, Nancy? Can we do our prayer? Are we all set? So that we have our passes. Good. Sometimes I keep speaking and speaking and speaking because they're passes. So let's be merry with the message. Be merry with the message of love that we always get from our loved ones that are up there, from Jesus, our dear friend, from the good spirits that are always with us. Like to thank them for the opportunity, for the blessings, for being here with us, for inspiring us, for giving us a little more of their strength so that we can persevere through our issues, our problems, but also when we are happy, that we can really feel the happiness that they want us to feel. Dear God, bless our families, bless our kids, our father, our mother, our parents, all the ones that surround us, but also bless our work, our town, bless this country, bless this planet. We need so much more of your love, but make us understand that we don't need to wait for you, that we can also be part of the change that the world needs. So help us understand this and help us fulfill our duties towards the love and the kindness that we all want in the world. May your blessings be with us tonight and always. So be it.